The unplanned encounter, the morning light filtered through the floor-to-ceiling windows of Sterling Global, casting golden streaks across the polished floors. Alina Carter adjusted the strap of her bag, her heels clicking rapidly as she navigated the maze of corridors. Her first day as lead translator was already off to a disastrous start, late, disoriented, and now desperately searching for a restroom. She spotted a door with a symbol that looked like the universal sign for a bathroom, and pushed through without hesitation. The moment she stepped inside, the scent of sandalwood and citrus enveloped her, and the plush carpet beneath her feet was her first clue that something was wrong. This was no restroom. The space was expansive, with a sunken hot tub in the center, and a glass-walled shower to the side. Steam curled in the air, and before she could retreat, the sound of water shutting off made her freeze. A figure stepped out from behind a frosted partition, towel slung low on his hips, water glistening. On his toned torso, Damian Sterling. Her breath hitched. She had seen Photo's sharp jawline, piercing gray eyes. An aura of controlled power, but nothing compared to seeing him like this, raw and unguarded. His gaze locked onto hers, and for a heartbeat neither moved. "This is a private suite." "He," said voice dangerously calm. "Care to explain why you're here?" I thought it was the restroom," she stammered, forcing her eyes to stay on his face and not the water trailing down his chest. "I'm new. I got lost." His brow arched. "Alina Carter, the new translator from Geneva." She nodded, mortified. "Yes, and I'm already making a fantastic first impression." A flicker of amusement crossed his features before he schooled them back into neutrality. "The employee restrooms are on the second floor. The briefing starts in 5 minutes. I suggest you find your way there. Right? Of course?" She turned to leave, but her heel caught on the edge of the rug. She lurched forward. Her hands landed squarely on his bare chest. His skin was warm, his heartbeat rapid beneath her palm. His hands shot out to steady her, fingers wrapping around her wrists. The contact sent a jolt through her, and when she looked up, his gaze had darkened. "I'm so sorry," she whispered. His grip tightened briefly before he released her. "Go," he said, voice rough, "before you're late." She fled, her pulse racing behind her. Damian watched her go, his usual composure fractured. No one had ever gotten under his skin so quickly, and that terrified him. The next week was a blur of impossible demands. Alina had expected challenges in her new role, but Damian Sterling seemed determined to break her. Every morning, a fresh stack of contracts landed on her desk-urgent complex, always due by noon. Legal jargon in Mandarin, technical specifications in German, financial reports in Arabic. Each one was a test, and she knew it. She refused to crack. Her fingers flew across the keyboard, translating, adapting, refining. She didn't just convert words, she shaped them, ensuring the meaning carried the same weight in every language. By the time she strode into Damian's office with the completed files, her spine was steel, her chin high. He took the documents without a word, scanning them with a critical eye. She watched his expression closely, the slight tightening of his jaw when he found no mistakes. "You're early," he remarked, voice cool. "I accounted for review time," she said, matching his tone. His gaze flicked up, assessing her. "Your technical skills are adequate." Adequate. The word stung, but she didn't flinch. The next day, he threw her into a live negotiation with Japanese investors. No preparation. She translated seamlessly, even when he deliberately used obscure industry terms, testing her. She didn't miss a beat. By the third day, the other executives had noticed. Whispers followed her in the halls. "Did you see how she handled the Berlin call? Sterling's pushing her hard, but she's not buckling." Then came the German meeting. Damian was in rare form, sharp, relentless, his demands bordering on unreasonable. But when he spoke, Alina didn't just translate. She adjusted, softened his blunt phrasing just enough to suit the investors. Cultural preferences without diluting his intent. Afterward, he called her into his office. She expected another impossible task. Instead, he stood by the window, back to her, silent. For so long, she almost spoke first. You changed my words, he finally said. I adapted them. He turned, and for the first time, she saw something other than ice in his eyes' curiosity. Most translators wouldn't dare. Most translators, she countered, haven't seen their CEO in a towel, a beat. Then impossibly the corner of his mouth twitched. The air between them shifted, charged with something unspoken. She noticed the way his shirt stretched across his shoulders, the faint shadow of stubble along his jaw, the way his gaze dropped to her lips, just for a second. Then his phone rang. Shattering the moment, she turned to leave, but his voice stopped her at the door. Alina. She glanced back. Good work today. Simple words. But from Damien Sterling, they felt like a seismic shift. As she walked away, she realized the truth. His tests weren't just about her skills. They were armor. A way to keep everyone, including her, at a distance. The question was, how long could he keep it up? Because she wasn't just surviving his gauntlet, she was winning. The Sterling Global Charity Gala was a spectacle of crystal chandeliers and whispered power plays. Alina smoothed the midnight silk of her gown, lingering near the edge of the ballroom. Her role tonight was simple: circulate, translate, disappear. Yet, her attention kept snagging on Damien. He moved through the crowd like a blade through water, precise, controlled, the embodiment of corporate royalty. But she'd spent weeks studying his tells, the way his thumb tapped twice against his champagne flute, untouched. The tension in his shoulders when a waiter passed with a fresh tray, when he abruptly excused himself from a conversation and vanished onto the terrace. She followed. The night air was cool, the city lights stretching below like scattered diamonds. Damien stood at the stone railing, his back rigid, fingers gripping the edge too tight. You should be inside, he said without turning. So should you? She stepped closer. Why does champagne bother you? He went very still. You noticed that? I noticed everything about you. The admission slipped out before she could stop it. Long silence. Then 5 years ago. His voice was rough. Gala just like this. My wife Lillian was there. Our son Daniel. A muscle jumped in his jaw. We were celebrating a merger, toasting with champagne when the call came. An explosion at our Singapore lab. Elena's breath caught. It was sabotage. A competitor planted explosives to steal research. But the timers malfunctioned. His knuckles whitened. They never made it out. The raw grief in his words cracked. Something opened in her chest. Without thinking, she reached for his hand. He flinched but didn't pull away. I'm sorry, she whispered. His fingers twisted to grip hers, tight as a drowning man clinging to shore. I don't talk about this. But you're telling me? Their eyes locked, the space between them hummed with something electric, dangerous. Then his free hand came up, brushing a stray curl behind her ear. His touch lingered, thumb grazing her cheekbone. She could feel his breath. Warm against her lips, a burst of laughter from inside shattered the moment. Damien stepped back abruptly, his mask slamming back into place. We should return. But as she turned to leave, his voice stopped her. Alina, a pause. Thank you, 2 words. Yet they lingered in the air between them all the way back to the ballroom, heavier than any confession. The storm rolled in, just as Alina reached Damien's penthouse. He'd summoned her under the pretense of reviewing urgent contracts. Japanese acquisition papers that couldn't wait until morning. But when the elevator doors opened too, his private residence, the dim lighting and absence of any legal team told her this was about something else entirely. Thunder rattled the floor-to-ceiling windows as she stepped inside. Damien stood by the fireplace, sleeves rolled to his elbows, a tumbler of whiskey in hand. The amber liquid caught the firelight as he turned. You came. You said it was urgent. She set her briefcase down, pulse quickening when his gaze dropped to the way her rain-dampened blouse clung to her skin. A flash of lightning illuminated the space between them. The contracts, she prompted. He didn't move. They can wait. The air thickened. Rain lashed against the windows like a living thing as he closed the distance between them. Why did you really call me here, Damien? His fingers brushed hers, sending a jolt up her arm. You know why? Should have stepped back. Should have remembered he was her CEO, that this was professional suicide. But the way he looked at her, like she was the only solid thing in a world that had betrayed him, made her sway closer instead. Tell me, she whispered. His breath hitched. I haven't slept since that night on the terrace. All I see is you. His thumb traced her lower lip. All I want is you. The confession hung between them, fragile as the candlelight flickering against the walls. Then the power went out. In the sudden darkness, restraint shattered. His mouth crashed onto hers, hot and desperate. She gasped into the kiss, fingers tangling. In his hair, as he backed her against the nearest wall, the storm outside mirrored the one between them all, thunder and lightning, and no way to escape unscathed. Alina. He growled her name against her throat, hands mapping her waist, her hips, pulling her flush against him. Tell me to stop. She arched into his touch. Don't you dare. The phone rang. They froze. Damien cursed, pressing his forehead to hers as the call went to voicemail. Then his assistant's voice cut through the silence. Mr. Sterling? Urgent news. Vector Corp just leaked documents implicating you in. He was across the room in 3 strides, snatching up the receiver. What? Alina watched his face. Drain of color. When? A pause. No, I'll handle it. He hung up, shoulders tense. They're accusing me of corporate espionage, claiming I orchestrated the Singapore explosion. Her stomach dropped. That's impossible. It's a distraction. His voice turned lethal. They're making their move to take Sterling global. Another lightning flash revealed the war in his eyes. Duty versus desire. She already knew his choice before he spoke. I have to go. Elena straightened her clothes with trembling hands. I understand, but as he turned to leave, she caught his wrist. Damien, whoever did this, they took your family. Don't let them take you too. For a heartbeat, his mask slipped. Then he was gone, swallowed by the storm, alone in the dark. Alina pressed a hand to her still tingling lips. The game had changed, and she'd be damned if she'd let him play alone. The Sterling Global boardroom was a war zone. Alina stood just outside the glass doors, watching through the blinds as Damien faced down his accusers. Vector Corp leaks had done their damage. Half the board members were already reaching for their phones, preparing to jump ship. She clutched the manila folder tighter. Inside, Damien's voice cut through the chaos. These allegations are baseless. Then explain the emails, snapped Richard Voss, Sterling's largest investor. Your signature is on documents authorizing the Singapore lab security bypass. A muscle jumped in Damien's jaw. They're forgeries. Prove it. Alina chose that moment to enter. Every head turned as she strode to the front of the room. Damien's eyes locked onto hers, a silent question burning in their gray depths. She set the folder on the table. I can. For 3 sleepless nights, she'd combed through Vector Corp's leaked files. It's not the damning ones everyone saw of the metadata buried beneath. These timestamps prove the evidence was created last month. She flipped open the folder, revealing a chain of offshore transactions. And these wire transfers show Voss has been funneling money to Vector Corp for years. The room erupted. Voss shot to his feet. You little Damien moved faster? One hand shoved Alina behind him, while the other snatched Voss's wrist mid-lunge. Touch her, he said softly, and I'll break every bone in your hand. Security dragged Voss away, screaming threats, but Alina only had eyes for Damien. Da-da-da-da-da-da-da. His chest heaved. His usually perfect hair disheveled. He looked ... human. Then he did the unthinkable. Right there in front of the entire board. Damien Sterling cupped her face and kissed her. Gasps filled the room. Cameras flashed. He pulled back just enough to murmur against her lips, I should have done that weeks ago. Later, when the chaos had settled and the truth was splashed across every financial news outlet, found themselves alone in his office. Alina traced the rim of her coffee cup. You realize we've just made ourselves targets? Damien caught her, hand intertwining their fingers. Let them come. His thumb brushed over her knuckles. I spent 5 years building walls.
Ow.
You tore them down in 5 weeks. Outside, the first snow of winter began to fall. 1 year later, the headlines would tell a different story. Sterling Global announces new co-CEO and whistleblower behind Vectrocorp's collapse to wed founder this June. But for now, in this quiet moment between storms, there was only this, his lips on hers, and the unshakable certainty that some risks were worth taking. Epilogue. The spa incident never made the papers, though the security footage which Damien may or may not have kept showed something priceless the exact moment. The most powerful man in the city realized he'd met his match, and the rest, as they say, was history.